Something explosive may be brewing behind the scenes of the upcoming NFL draft, and it all started with one comment from Jimmy Haslam. During the chaos of the NFL scouting combine, the billionaire owner of the Cleveland Browns reportedly delivered a statement that immediately ignited controversy across the football world. When reporters pressed him about the growing drama surrounding Shedeur Sanders, Haslam didn't sound intimidated at all. Instead, he reportedly made it clear that no player or family would dictate how his franchise operates. But the moment that really set the internet on fire came when his comments appeared to take a direct shot at Jimmy Sanders, the Hall of Famer known worldwide as Coach Prime. And if there's one thing football fans know, it's this: publicly challenging Jimmy Sanders rarely ends quietly. Within minutes, rumors began spreading that the Browns might be playing a much bigger game behind the scenes. A game involving draft strategies, secret targets, and a possible betrayal that could explode on draft night. But what actually happened in that private conversation at the Combine might be even more shocking. The tension surrounding Shedeur Sanders didn't suddenly appear overnight. For months, his name has been sitting right in the middle of one of the most polarizing conversations in football. On the field, there's no denying the talent. Shedeur has built a reputation as one of the most confident young quarterbacks in the country. His accuracy, pocket presence, and ability to stay calm under pressure helped turn Colorado Buffaloes football into one of the most talked-about programs in college football. And with the guidance of his father, Jimmy Sanders, his rise has been impossible to ignore. But along with that rise came something else: an enormous spotlight. Unlike most draft prospects, Shedeur isn't just entering the NFL as a quarterback. He's entering as a brand. Over the last few years, he's built a powerful personal image through nil deals, social media influence, and national media attention. Some reports even suggest that his endorsement portfolio is already worth millions before he's taken a single professional snap. And that level of influence can make some NFL front offices nervous. In the league, teams are used to controlling the environment around their quarterbacks. Franchises invest massive resources into developing young passers, and they prefer players who quietly fit into the system rather than dominate the headlines. But the Sanders name doesn't operate quietly. Wherever Shedeur goes, attention follows, and so does the presence of Coach Prime. That dynamic has sparked ongoing debate across the NFL world. Some analysts believe the attention surrounding Shedeur is actually a positive. A quarterback who thrives under pressure, commands a locker room, and carries superstar confidence can transform a franchise overnight. Teams looking for leadership might see that as a major advantage. But others see potential complications. Rumors circulating around league insiders suggest that a few front offices are cautious about the possibility of outside influence from the Sanders family. Not because of anything illegal or inappropriate, but because Jimmy Sanders is one of the most powerful personalities in football. His presence alone can shift the narrative around a team. And that's where the speculation surrounding the Cleveland Browns began to grow. Over the past several weeks, many draft projections have linked Cleveland to Shedeur Sanders. With the Browns reportedly searching for long-term stability at quarterback, analysts assumed the connection made perfect sense. The storyline was simple: Cleveland drafts Shedeur, Coach Prime celebrates, and the franchise begins a new era built around one of the most recognizable names in football. But according to whispers circulating around the NFL scouting combine, that narrative might not be the full story. Some insiders claim the Browns may have allowed that assumption to grow intentionally. The idea being that if every team in the league believes Cleveland is locked in on Shedeur, it could distract them from the Browns' true draft strategy. In other words, the Shedeur Sanders storyline might be more than just draft speculation. It might be the perfect smokescreen. And if those rumors are even partially true, it would mean one thing: the real plan inside Cleveland has been hidden in plain sight. But the moment that secret allegedly slipped out didn't happen during a press conference or an official interview. It happened during a private conversation that was never supposed to leave the room. The moment that allegedly changed everything didn't happen during a press conference or an official interview. According to reports and rumors circulating around the league, it happened in a private conversation that was never supposed to reach the public. The setting was the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, one of the most important gatherings on the NFL calendar. Every year, executives, coaches, scouts, and owners from across the league come together to evaluate prospects, compare draft boards, and quietly discuss strategies for the upcoming draft. But the Combine isn't just about workouts and interviews. Behind the scenes, there are exclusive hospitality lounges where the league's most powerful figures gather. Owners mingle with other owners. General managers trade rumors. Conversations that shape the future of franchises happen in small circles far away from cameras. And according to witnesses who were reportedly nearby, that's exactly where the conversation involving Jimmy Haslam allegedly took place. Haslam was reportedly standing with a group of fellow owners and league insiders inside one of those private areas. The conversation started casually, the way most Combine discussions do. They talked about quarterback prospects, draft positioning, and which teams were expected to make aggressive moves. Eventually, the topic shifted to the Cleveland Browns and their draft position. With one of the top picks in the draft, Cleveland had become one of the most closely watched teams in the league. Many analysts believed the Browns were strongly connected to Shedeur Sanders, especially given the media attention surrounding his father, Deion Sanders. For weeks, the assumption across the NFL had been simple: Cleveland was preparing to select Shedeur as their next franchise quarterback. But according to rumors spreading from that private conversation, Haslam allegedly suggested something very different. Witnesses claim the Browns owner hinted that the entire narrative surrounding Shedeur might actually be part of a larger draft strategy. The idea, according to the speculation, was that allowing the media and other teams to believe Cleveland was focused on Shedeur could distract attention from the player the Browns might actually want. In the NFL, this type of strategy isn't unheard of. Teams frequently attempt to hide their true draft targets by allowing false assumptions to circulate. Sometimes they leak misleading information. Other times they simply stay quiet and let the media create its own story. The goal is always the same: prevent rival teams from realizing which player a franchise truly values. But what made this situation explosive was the possibility that someone had spoken too openly. If the rumors about Haslam's comments are even partially accurate, it would mean that the Browns' carefully crafted strategy may have been accidentally revealed in front of people who had every reason to repeat what they heard. And that's exactly what appears to have happened. Because in today's NFL, secrets rarely stay hidden for long. Text messages move fast, agents talk, reporters hear whispers. Within hours, the Combine rumor mill can turn a quiet conversation into a league-wide headline. Which is exactly why the story reportedly spread so quickly. And once those whispers reached the inner circle of Coach Prime, the situation was no longer just a draft rumor. It was the beginning of a much bigger conflict. What made the rumors surrounding the Cleveland Browns so explosive wasn't just the private conversation that reportedly leaked from the NFL scouting combine. It was the implication behind it. According to speculation spreading among league insiders, the Browns may have been orchestrating one of the most elaborate draft smoke screens in recent memory. For weeks, nearly every major draft projection linked Cleveland with Shedeur Sanders. The storyline felt almost too perfect. A franchise searching for stability at quarterback, a confident young star ready for the NFL spotlight, and the massive media presence surrounding Deion Sanders creating endless headlines. From the outside, it looked like a natural match. But according to the rumors coming out of Indianapolis, that narrative might have been exactly what the Browns wanted the entire league to believe. In the NFL draft, misinformation can be a weapon. Front offices spend months evaluating prospects, analyzing team needs, and predicting what their rivals might do. But because the draft is essentially a strategic puzzle, sometimes the smartest move is convincing other teams you're targeting the wrong player. If a team believes you want a certain quarterback, they may shift their own strategy. They might draft someone else, they might trade their pick, they might ignore another prospect entirely. And that kind of confusion can create a huge advantage. According to whispers circulating around the combine, Cleveland's front office, led by general manager Andrew Berry, may have allowed the Shedeur Sanders narrative to grow intentionally. The idea was simple: let the media frenzy surrounding the Sanders family dominate the headlines while quietly evaluating other quarterback prospects behind the scenes. One name that reportedly surfaced in those rumors was Fernando Mendoza, a towering quarterback prospect whose physical traits reportedly caught the attention of Cleveland's scouts. Standing around 6'5" with a strong arm and prototypical NFL size, Mendoza fits the traditional quarterback mold that some franchises still prefer when building their offense. While he hasn't received the same national spotlight as Sanders, scouts reportedly believe his physical upside could make him a valuable long-term project. And that's where the alleged strategy becomes fascinating. If Cleveland truly believed Mendoza was their top target, they would have needed to protect that information at all costs. Teams like the New York Giants or the Las Vegas Raiders, both rumored to be evaluating quarterbacks, could easily jump ahead of the Browns in the draft order and select Mendoza first. The simplest solution: make the entire league believe Cleveland was focused on someone else. But the moment that alleged plan leaked, everything changed. Because once rumors began spreading that the Browns might not actually be targeting Sanders, the carefully constructed illusion could start to collapse. Rival teams would begin reconsidering their strategies. Scouts would start asking new questions. Draft boards across the league could shift overnight. And perhaps most importantly, the Sanders family itself would suddenly realize they might be caught in the middle of a massive chess game. If that speculation reached Coach Prime, the reaction would be impossible to predict. Because if there's one thing the football world knows about Jimmy Sanders, it's this: he does not stay quiet when he believes someone has disrespected his family. And according to reports, the moment those rumors reached his inner circle, the situation exploded. The rumor that truly set the football world on fire wasn't just about draft strategy. It was about respect, or what many people online believe was a lack of it. When speculation began spreading about comments allegedly made by Jimmy Haslam, the reaction wasn't just focused on the draft. Instead, much of the outrage centered on how those comments appeared to reference Jimmy Sanders. For decades, Sanders, better known as Coach Prime, has been one of the most influential figures in football. As a player, he dominated both the NFL and MLB while building a reputation for confidence, charisma, and unmatched competitiveness. As a coach, he has transformed college programs into national headlines, most recently with the Colorado Buffaloes football. In other words, Jimmy Sanders is not someone the football world casually dismisses. But according to rumors circulating around the NFL scouting combine, Haslam allegedly referred to Sanders in a way that some people interpreted as disrespectful. Witnesses claim the Browns' owner suggested that Cleveland's front office would never allow a college coach to influence how an NFL franchise operates. Now, to be clear, these claims are based on reports and speculation that spread quickly after the alleged conversation. The exact wording and context have been debated online, but the perception that Sanders had been publicly brushed aside was enough to ignite a firestorm. And perception can be just as powerful as reality. Within hours, social media exploded with reactions from fans, analysts, and former players. Many people saw the comments as a direct challenge to one of the most recognizable personalities in football. Others argued that Haslam was simply defending his organization's authority and reminding everyone that NFL teams make their own decisions. But the story didn't stop there. Because the rumors didn't just suggest a disagreement, they suggested something far more personal. According to insiders, the alleged comments implied that Cleveland had never seriously planned to build its future around Shedeur Sanders, despite months of speculation linking the quarterback to the Cleveland Browns. If that narrative were true, it would mean the Sanders family might have been unknowingly pulled into a massive draft smokescreen. And that's where things became explosive. Jimmy Sanders has built his entire brand on loyalty, confidence, and protecting his players, especially his own son. Anyone who has watched his coaching career knows he doesn't shy away from confrontation when he believes someone has crossed a line. So when whispers from the combine reportedly reached Sanders' inner circle, many people around the league began wondering the same thing. How would Coach Prime respond? Sources close to the situation claimed Sanders was initially stunned by what he heard. The idea that his name might have been used as part of a strategic distraction reportedly caught him completely off guard. But disbelief can quickly turn into something else. Because if Sanders believed the Browns had intentionally misled him or his son, the fallout could become much bigger than a simple draft rumor. And knowing Coach Prime's history of speaking directly and publicly, the next move might not happen behind closed doors. It might happen in front of the entire football world. Once the rumors from the NFL scouting combine began circulating, it didn't take long for the story to reach the inner circle of Jimmy Sanders. And if there's one thing the football world has learned about Coach Prime over the years, it's that he doesn't ignore situations that involve his family. According to speculation from insiders around the league, Sanders was initially stunned when he heard what had allegedly been said behind closed doors. The idea that the Cleveland Browns might have been using his name, or the hype surrounding his son, as part of a larger draft strategy reportedly caught him completely off guard. For months, the football media had connected Cleveland with Shedeur Sanders. Analysts discussed the potential fit almost daily. Mock drafts repeatedly placed Shedeur in a Browns uniform. Some even speculated that Cleveland's interest might have been strengthened by the presence and guidance of Coach Prime. But if the rumors from Indianapolis were true, that entire narrative might have been built on a misunderstanding, or worse, a deliberate distraction. Sources close to Sanders claim his first reaction was disbelief. After all, the NFL is filled with smokescreens and strategic misdirection around draft time. Teams often hide their true intentions to prevent rivals from stealing their targets. But what made this situation different was the possibility that the Sanders family itself had unknowingly become part of that strategy. And that's where things reportedly escalated. Insiders claim Sanders quickly reached out to people within the Browns organization looking for answers. The person at the center of those conversations was reportedly Andrew Berry, the executive responsible for guiding the team's draft strategy. According to rumors circulating around league circles, Berry attempted to calm the situation with a carefully worded response. Instead of confirming or denying the alleged conversation involving owner Jimmy Haslam, Berry reportedly explained that private discussions among team executives are rarely shared publicly during the draft process. In other words, he gave the type of answer front offices usually rely on when dealing with sensitive information. But by that point, the damage may have already been done. Those close to Sanders claim the Hall of Famer wasn't satisfied with the explanation. Coach Prime has built a career on reading people, controlling narratives, and protecting the players around him. If he felt that the Browns had misled him, or worse, disrespected his family, the situation could quickly turn into a public confrontation. And Sanders has never been afraid of the spotlight. Throughout his coaching career, he has used social media and public appearances to speak directly to fans and the media. When he believes something needs to be addressed, he rarely waits for someone else to control the story. That's why many people around the league began wondering if Sanders might take the situation public. Because if Coach Prime decided to respond openly, whether through interviews, social media, or a public statement, the entire narrative around the NFL draft could shift overnight. Suddenly, the Browns wouldn't just be dealing with draft speculation. They'd be dealing with a national controversy involving one of the most influential voices in football. And if that happened, the fallout could spread far beyond Cleveland. Because the next move in this situation might not just affect one team. It could shake up the entire NFL draft board. Once the rumors surrounding the Cleveland Browns and the Sanders family began spreading across the league, the situation quickly evolved from simple draft speculation into something much bigger. Because if the relationship between Cleveland and Shedeur Sanders truly breaks down, the consequences could reshape the entire NFL draft. And this wouldn't be the first time a quarterback prospect held leverage over where he ends up. In rare situations throughout NFL history, highly anticipated prospects have quietly influenced where they are willing or unwilling to play. Sometimes it's done through private conversations with teams. Other times, it's done through public messaging that makes certain destinations less appealing. Rumors are now circulating that Jimmy Sanders could potentially play a major role in that kind of scenario. Coach Prime has never hidden the fact that he wants the best possible situation for his son. Over the past year, he has repeatedly emphasized the importance of organizational culture, coaching stability, and player development when discussing Shedeur's future in the NFL. So if the speculation about Cleveland's alleged draft strategy reached him, and if he believed the situation was disrespectful, there is a possibility he could push back. Insiders around the league have floated a dramatic hypothetical scenario. What if the Sanders camp publicly signaled that Shedeur would prefer not to play for certain franchises? While nothing like that has been officially announced, even the hint of such a stance could create chaos among teams drafting near the top of the board. For example, if Cleveland suddenly believed that Shedeur might refuse to sign or create major friction with the organization, their entire draft strategy would have to change overnight. A quarterback expected to go near the top of the draft could suddenly fall several spots or force teams to reconsider their plans entirely. And that ripple effect could trigger a full-scale draft war. Franchises desperate for a quarterback often compete aggressively when elite prospects become available. Teams might attempt to trade up, offering multiple picks just to secure their target. Others may rush to draft a quarterback earlier than expected out of fear that someone else will grab him first. The moment uncertainty enters the equation, every team's strategy becomes unpredictable. This is especially true when you consider the franchises picking near Cleveland. Teams like the New York Giants and the Las Vegas Raiders have both been linked to quarterback searches in recent seasons. If those organizations believe the Browns' situation with Shedeur is unstable, they could suddenly see an opportunity. One team might decide to draft him immediately. Another might attempt to trade up. And another could leverage the chaos to demand a massive trade package from Cleveland if the Browns desperately want to move up the board for a different quarterback prospect. In other words, one leaked conversation at the Combine could potentially ignite a domino effect across the entire draft. Because the NFL draft is essentially a strategic chess match played between 32 teams, every rumor, every leak, and every hint of conflict can change how teams evaluate their options. And if the Browns truly lost control of the narrative surrounding Shedeur Sanders, they may have accidentally created the exact situation they were trying to avoid. But the impact of this controversy might not stop with rival teams. Because now, there are whispers that the NFL itself could be paying attention to what happened in Indianapolis. While the spotlight has been focused on the brewing tension between the Cleveland Browns and the Sanders camp, the real story might involve the teams quietly watching from the sidelines. Because in the NFL draft, chaos for one team can become an opportunity for another. Two franchises that could potentially benefit from the situation are the New York Giants and the Las Vegas Raiders. Both teams have spent the past few seasons searching for long-term answers at quarterback, and both are positioned in parts of the draft where a major shakeup could suddenly work in their favor. If the rumors surrounding Cleveland's strategy are accurate, those teams may now be watching the situation with intense interest. For months, draft projections assumed the Browns were likely to select Shedeur Sanders if he were available when their pick arrived. That assumption allowed other teams to focus on different prospects while planning their draft boards. But the moment uncertainty enters the equation, everything changes. Imagine the scenario from the perspective of the Giants. If New York believes Cleveland is secretly targeting a different quarterback, someone like Fernando Mendoza, they suddenly gain enormous leverage. Holding a pick ahead of Cleveland could give them the power to completely disrupt the Browns' plan. The Giants could simply draft Mendoza themselves, even if he wasn't originally their top choice. That move would instantly force Cleveland to abandon its strategy and scramble for alternatives. In a league where quarterback talent is scarce, that kind of disruption can be devastating. But the Giants could also choose a more strategic approach. Instead of drafting the player outright, they could threaten to do it, forcing Cleveland to trade up one spot. In that scenario, the Browns might have to surrender valuable draft picks just to secure the player they originally hoped would fall to them. And in the NFL draft, moving up even one position can cost a surprising amount of capital. Meanwhile, the Raiders represent another wildcard in this unfolding drama. Las Vegas has been heavily linked to quarterback prospects in recent seasons, And if the organization believes there's instability between Cleveland and the Sanders camp, they might see a rare opportunity. If Day and Sanders were to publicly express concerns about Cleveland, it could cause Shedeur's draft position to fluctuate. A prospect projected to be taken early could suddenly slide down the board if teams begin worrying about potential conflict. And that's exactly the kind of moment opportunistic franchises look for. If Shedeur were to fall further than expected, a team like the Raiders could swoop in and select him at a value that suddenly looks like a steal. Quarterbacks with elite confidence and strong leadership traits are rare commodities in the NFL, and teams rarely pass on those opportunities if the risk appears manageable. The key point is this: the draft is not just about evaluating talent. It's about predicting how every other team will react. Right now, the Browns may be dealing with a problem that extends far beyond their own decision-making process. Every rumor about their strategy changes how other franchises prepare. Every whisper about the Sanders family alters the calculations happening inside front offices across the league. And if the Browns' alleged plan truly leaked during that combine conversation, they may have unintentionally handed their rivals the information they needed to disrupt everything. But the potential consequences might not stop with rival teams trying to outmaneuver Cleveland. Because now, according to some reports, the situation may have caught the attention of the league itself. As the story surrounding the Cleveland Browns continues to spiral, the fallout may not be limited to rival teams or draft strategy. According to speculation circulating around league insiders, the situation could even attract attention from the National Football League itself. Now, to be clear, there has been no official confirmation of a formal investigation, but the rumors alone are enough to raise eyebrows around the league. The reason is simple: the NFL treats draft secrecy very seriously. Every year, teams spend months preparing for the draft. Scouts evaluate hundreds of players, front offices build complex draft boards, and executives conduct countless private meetings to determine which prospects best fit their organizations. These strategies are treated like highly sensitive corporate secrets. And for good reason. If another team gains insight into your draft plans, even a small hint, it can completely disrupt months of preparation. Rival franchises may jump ahead of you in the draft order, trade for key positions, or select the player you've been targeting long before your pick arrives. That's why owners and executives are usually extremely cautious about discussing draft strategy in public or semi-public settings. But according to witnesses at the NFL Scouting Combine, the alleged conversation involving Jimmy Haslam may have taken place in a hospitality area where other team executives were present. While those areas are technically private, they're still filled with league insiders, owners, general managers, agents, and media contacts. In other words, it's exactly the kind of environment where a casual comment can spread rapidly. And once the rumor mill starts turning, it's almost impossible to stop. Within hours of the alleged conversation, speculation about Cleveland's supposed draft strategy began circulating among reporters and agents at the Combine. Messages were exchanged, conversations were repeated, and the story gradually expanded beyond the original group of people who had supposedly heard the comment. By the time the whispers reached the wider football community, the damage may have already been done. That's where the possibility of league attention comes into play. The NFL has strict rules regarding competitive integrity. While owners are allowed to discuss general topics with one another, revealing strategic information that could compromise the fairness of the draft can become a sensitive issue. If a team believes that another organization has accidentally or intentionally leaked critical draft information, it could raise questions about whether the competitive balance of the process has been affected. Now again, nothing has been formally confirmed. But the mere possibility that a private conversation could reshape the top of the draft board is enough to make league officials pay attention. The NFL invests enormous resources into ensuring that the draft remains fair and unpredictable for all 32 teams. And when rumors begin suggesting that one team's strategy may have been exposed prematurely, it naturally attracts scrutiny. Meanwhile, the Browns are now facing pressure from multiple directions at once. Rival teams are adjusting their draft boards. The Sanders camp is reportedly questioning Cleveland's intentions. And the wider league is watching closely to see how the situation unfolds. In other words, what started as a casual conversation inside a combined hospitality room may have evolved into something far more complicated. And with the draft approaching quickly, the next development in this story could arrive at any moment. As the NFL draft approaches, the situation surrounding the Cleveland Browns has turned into one of the most unpredictable storylines in football. What began as a simple rumor about draft strategy has now grown into a complicated web of speculation involving team executives, rival franchises, and one of the most influential families in the sport. At the center of it all is Shedeur Sanders, a prospect whose path to the NFL may now be surrounded by more drama than anyone expected. For months, many analysts believed Cleveland could be the team that selects him and builds a new offensive identity around his talent. But the alleged conversation involving owner Jimmy Haslam at the NFL Scouting Combine may have completely changed the narrative. If the rumors about a draft smoke screen are true, then the Browns may have unintentionally revealed a strategy they worked months to protect. And once that kind of information enters the NFL rumor mill, it spreads fast. Now every team drafting near the top of the board is paying attention. Franchises like the New York Giants and Las Vegas Raiders could suddenly find themselves in powerful positions if Cleveland's true intentions become clear. A team might trade up unexpectedly. Another might select a quarterback earlier than planned. And if multiple franchises start scrambling for the same prospect, the entire top of the draft could shift within minutes. That's what makes the NFL draft one of the most dramatic events in sports. It's not just about talent, it's about timing, strategy, and psychology. Teams try to predict what their rivals are thinking while hiding their own plans until the final moment. But when rumors explode across the league, that delicate balance can collapse. At the same time, the Sanders family remains a powerful factor in the story. Deion Sanders, widely known as Coach Prime, has never been shy about speaking his mind when it comes to protecting his players and his program. If he believes his son's name has been used as part of a misleading strategy, there's always the possibility that he could address the situation publicly. And if that happens, the spotlight on Cleveland would become even brighter. Because public narratives can influence how teams behave during the draft. A franchise facing controversy may feel pressure to change its plans. Other teams may attempt to capitalize on the chaos. Suddenly, decisions that seemed clear months earlier can become uncertain in a matter of hours. That's why so many league insiders are watching this story closely. If Cleveland sticks to its rumored strategy, the Browns could still walk away from the draft with the quarterback they believe fits their system best. But if the situation spirals further, whether through public comments, strategic leaks, or aggressive moves from rival teams, the entire first round could unfold in ways no analyst predicted. And that's the real mystery hanging over draft night. Will the Browns follow the plan everyone thought they had? Or will the rumors surrounding Shedeur Sanders turn this year's draft into one of the most chaotic in NFL history? One thing is certain, when the commissioner steps to the podium and the first few picks are announced, the entire football world will be watching.